November 121 Mike, your turn. Checkride 111.
Hi, and welcome to 121 Point Mike Ground School. I'm Mike Thompson, your ground instructor for today's lesson, and for all the other lessons on my channel. Some of you have mentioned that you're prepping for an imminent check ride, and you know who you are, and so I made this video with you in mind. I wanted to share a couple of tips about prepping for your check ride so you don't bust and have to redo it. Apparently, examiners are really hard to find and schedule nowadays, so let's get right the first time, shall we? I'm not going to be able to, of course, think of everything that I want to say here, so this is likely a multi-part series. But I'd like you to please share your input down in the comments for inclusion in the next video, and to help the people out watching this one. Here we go. Number 1, make sure you use your checklists for all phases of flight. Yes, even something as simple as cruise and descent, and the ground for that matter. There's not much to do there in cruise and descent, but you can bet there's a checklist for it. Number 2, tell your examiner to shut up if you need to. You might want to say it more politely if you feel the need, but my point is he's likely to try distracting you, especially during approach and landing, and that's when you need to be the most focused. So if he drops a pencil or asks a question as you're turning final, tell him to maybe stand by in ATC terms. He wants to make sure that you can aviate, navigate, and communicate in that order. So tell him to be quiet. Number 3, always know where to go. Now I'm talking about emergency situations here, and there's a checklist for that. He's going to pull your power at some point, and so always know where you're going to put down. When I go cross country, I'm always looking out for the best field to land in, or maybe even an airport, hopefully, and it might be behind you. Number 4, know your light gun signals. This is in 91-125 of the FAR and 431 of the AIM. Memorizing tables is harder than a picture, so here's a little graphic I made to make it easier. Maybe print it out and keep it on your kneeboard. Number 5, make sure to check your aircraft's logbooks, because you might be asked about current squawks. If you're doing an instrument check ride, you got to make sure that your instrument inspections are up to date. You might be asked if they are or when they were. Number 6, have a copy of the FAR AIM and your aircraft's POH handy, and maybe those logbooks if you can. When you don't know an answer, it's important to know how to look it up. There's an index at the backs that tells you where the things are. I actually didn't know where to find the information about the light gun signals for this video, so I searched the index for light and then signals and found it that way really quickly. Number 7, I'm not proud of this one, but my mistake can be a valuable learning experience for you. I busted my first instrument check ride for holding on the wrong radial. The inbound course to the VOR and the published hold inbound were separated by a few degrees, and I just held on my inbound course without changing the VOR to the proper inbound course. So make sure you watch out for that. Number 8, ask your CFI or other pilot friends what tips they have, and hopefully they'll have a lot of tips down in the comments here and in future videos. I could probably dedicate a whole channel to check ride tips eventually. Maybe I have already. Number 9, don't forget the pre-flight brief. Tell your examiner how to use the seat belts, the door, and how he's going to need to open the door before landing if you need to make an emergency landing. Explain how you'll get out if the door gets stuck. Tell him what your takeoff plan is and your abort points, right? Something like, hey, if we're not off the ground by that windsock over there, we're going to abort. Or if we lose an engine before 500 feet, we're going to land straight ahead. If we lose an engine above 500 feet, then we'll whatever, right? So stuff that you should have already planned, though. And of course, number 10 is just relax. Now, of course, that word as an imperative is probably one of the most useless words in the language. When has uttering or yelling that word ever had its intended effect? But seriously, go fly and have fun. It's not nearly as bad as you think it'll be. You do not have to know everything or do everything perfectly. The certification standards are published, so you know exactly what it takes to pass. Please leave your tips and whatever first or second-hand tips down below in the comments so that we can all help each other. You'll likely receive a shout out in a future video for your input. So go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, and leave tips in the comments. And thanks for staying with me on 121 Point Mike.